Recorded. What month is it? August 26, 2024. I'm like, what month is it?
My goodness.
No clue. Good afternoon, Ray. Good afternoon, bro.
Oh.
Good afternoon, Rod. The slackers. The slackers aren't here. That goes to show. How are you doing, Ray?
I'm all right. I was sick as a dog last week, but I forced myself to recuperate just in time to make it to the show in good health. So here we are.
It seems like everybody's getting the worms lately around getting sick.
Oh no, I haven't had the worm since, many moons ago. Moons ago.
So it's not a worm incident. All right.
No.
Sorry, neighbor.
No shy halud for me. It's good. Spice it's fine.
Yeah. I see Andrew said it's 2200 GMT. Good afternoon, Andrew, and to our listeners. So I believe this is our last show of our theme month, right? Someone's saying that my audio is faint. Let me turn up the mic. What about now? Andrew, give me a thumbs up, virtual thumbs up. Are we good? Are we good? Bueller.
Yeah.
All right, we're good. So, how was your weekend?
How was I was recuperating. What was that?
Other than recuperating.
I attended a wedding for a family friend and brought my daughter, and that was really lovely. I was married, but I never had like a wedding ceremony because I don't like attention on me. So I think it was only like my second wedding in my life, but so I tried to be perfect and prepare my child, but she was a pro and I was the one having social anxiety. But it was phenomenal, really, really lovely. It was a Korean sermon, so it was a Korean church, and she goes to Korean daycare. So it was a really nice experience, especially having been sick earlier in the week. So I was happy to be able to attend and bring my daughter with me.
Cool. I traveled a little bit this weekend, see my son, rode on his boat, met my future in-laws. So
okay.
There you go. Woohoo! See that? Yay.
His future in-laws, right?
Huh?
His future in-laws, right?
No, I said ours. Well,
I don't know. I was not really good at the marriage thing, so don't. Well, we'll ask Arielle.
I don't know. His in-laws. I don't know. Some people that I know. How about that?
You were in your family.
Yeah, that. Other than that, back home in Atlanta, weather's hot. Work was good. Did some really interesting stuff with some data ingestion. Anything interesting you in the world of work? You break anything good this week? Last week, rather?
Just hearts and spirits. But work is pretty thrilling. Actually, we're gonna host a precision hunt series. So we're kicking that off tomorrow. I'm so sorry, Thursday actually. Thursday. So that's fun. And then for work adjacent activities, I start my attack surface management course. Hopefully getting my master's degree in cyber ops soon. A couple courses that I need to knock out. But for the next 8 weeks, I will be zoned in to attack surface management. So more to come there.
Collegiate or industry class certification?
It's another master's degree. That sounds pretentious, but just a nerdy kind of taking advantage, capitalizing, leveraging tuition benefit. And so Arielle can also walk us through that. But these are important if you have those opportunities, to make the most of them. So that's what I'm doing.
I may have to apply to your our guest that came on the show and maybe go through his cyber program. I applied for Cal Berkeley and they told me to kick rocks. So I sort of threw my hands up with school, and I didn't want to go to school anyway, but I may look at it. But I got this career thing going up. So I want to hear more about that. It's not a
my course.
What you're getting ready to do Thursday. We'll talk offline about it.
Oh yeah, Precision Hunt Series. Yeah, so we're pre-gaming that internally for our current customer community for Defender Experts. and we would love to launch it to be public facing. Is there an echo? Is it me or is it you, Ed?
It just became you.
It's me?
Yeah, it was. I just heard it pop up.
I'm the echo?
Yeah, I don't know why I started. It was sounding perfect at first, but it's fine. It's going
Okay.
away. I got the new mic, but it's been doing well so far.
I think it became right.
When I remember to turn it on. So maybe their speakers are too close or something. Hey, anyone on our call, any one of our listeners that is listening, if the echo is Edward, let me know or let Ray know. But hey, what did I do? Andrew said, I think it became Ray. It may be moving around the transient echo, right? Ghosted machine. Anything around that attack surface, that's one of my minor powers. I've been sort of playing around with ESAM a little bit, understanding continuous evaluation, threat monitoring. I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of security practitioners, especially those who are threat detectors, incident responders are never static. Yeah, they should be static. But when you are the defender, we think very reactive sometimes because we're always trying to return the volley rather than trying to introduce the serve. Tennis metaphor, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at attack surface management as a proactive, action. And so if you look into the Microsoft portal around that, you'll see that external external attack surface reduction or exposure, something, whatever it is, thing in the portal. You'll see it actually gives you a lot of proactive tips to be able to go in and make your CETM much better. But I'm getting an interest in that. I'm back breaking Sentinel stuff. So I was at a bunch of Splunk things today. I hadn't been to Splunk in a while, so I had to do that and write some parsers. So I'm back in that and back into KQL and heavy, including Rod's books. I got some other books I'm burning through and all the courses. And I'm doing a bunch of AWS stuff.
That's all? Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I doing AWS? But we'll get back. So I want to run through something for the show that I have to customer with. And what is happening, and we'll get to our guest here in a couple of minutes, is that they have a huge amount of data ingestion that was causing reliability issues with ingesting logs via the Azure monitoring agent, AMA. Mm-hmm. And so released about 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit earlier, 4 weeks ago, was Project Stratos, internal name at Microsoft. It's in private preview. Actually, it's GA now, and it's called Azure Monitor Pipeline. So let me share my screen and to our viewers. We'll share this. I think we'll be able to share the actual deck because it is public facing. It was announced. So let me get inside. Present. Share screen. And which one do I want to share? Window. I want to share that one. So within Azure Monitor Pipeline, it is still using an ingestion model around the AMA, but you have to do Azure Arc to enable this particular feature. So in Azure Arc, which is the overlay that allows the Azure management plane to be extended outside of Azure, right? You can take it and you can put the Arc agent on an AWS resource, an on-premise resource, a GCP resource, or Oracle Cloud. They can do Oracle Cloud. I don't think OCI would care about it. And so what it does, it allows you to then extend that plane out so that workload looks though it's residing in Azure, and now that management plane can be extended. But with this, we're talking about how do you ingest high volumes from multiple data sources natively without having to go maybe use another ingestion source like Cribble or something, Logstash, something like that. So when you have it, you can see what I talked about. You're going to be able to get, AWS, Google Cloud on premise, and you're putting the Arc agent on it. But what it does, instead of giving a direct ingestion to the log analytics workspace that you're using, whether it be Azure Monitor, you can't assume everybody's using Sentinel. You can ingest by using Sentinel, right? Just directly into an LAW. I think you can dump it into Azure Data Explorer ADX, but I need to do a little bit deeper investigation into it, you can see that you're looking at the way that you have the ingestion model, that you can have OS-based agents, applications that can feed directly into it, Arc-enabled Kubernetes, so you can go from Kubernetes clusters into it, edge assets, IoT, you generally think things along that line, PLC, and then REST API data injection. So you can send that telemetry to the cloud directly into the Azure Monitor pipeline and to the edge pipeline. So you can use the traditional ingestion model without using Azure pipeline, or you can use Azure pipeline exclusively, or a combination of both. What you're doing though is creating a data collection rule to groove that data for the tables and things that you want, and then send the tables to the store. So when that data comes out of that cloud pipeline, it's going to an Azure Monitor workspace or a Log Analytics workspace. Now, essentially they're the same things. But if you're in Azure, there is a distinct difference between a workspace that's been provisioned for, Azure Monitor, and one that's a Log Analytics workspace. And that's why again, in Azure, you see a separate, workload that says workspaces without the word Sentinel next to it. And then from there, you get a different experience. Like I love workbooks, right? You can do so much with workbooks, right? Basically, dashboards. You got Refiner, Insights, Alerts, and Event Hub. So once the data, you get the analytics experience, you can do all these things. But the cool part about this is that it's for high scale, data ingestion, like a lot, right? Some people look at the rest of the data. Like, yeah, I'm bringing in 14 terabytes a day. Well, that is a very declarative statement. I mean, that data is at rest at 14 terabytes, but what is the health and integrity of the data as it comes in? Are those SEP servers, SIF log servers being choked to death? And so we started seeing that data ingestion start having latency and taxing a lot of log ingestion servers, right? Whether it be Ceph, syslog. And I had a customer come in, and we were building scale sets, right, inside Azure, because we were trying to do syslog load balancing. I don't know what they were doing. I can't tell. It was a Palo Alto firewall that was eating it up. But I'm gonna put this out for everybody to read. But what I like about it is that this solution is built on a Kubernetes cluster. So you're not dumping it into another VM. You're dumping it into a high resilient capacity Kubernetes cluster. And inside that Kubernetes cluster is doing the intelligence and grooving the data before it eventually drops it into the Log Analytics workspace or the Azure workspace. I thought it was really cool to do this because I sort of worked on it, and they actually put me on a little V team to come in and give me my, give my mundane opinion about it, because it was some of the stuff was like whoosh, over my bald head. But once you see it in action, it's great. Now, can you just enable this for low capacity data ingestion? You could, but now you're defeating the purpose of actually having this particular feature inside of it. And it's called Azure Monitor Pipeline. You'll see a couple of different names. I'll put this out there, and you'll see the different ways that you can bring in from a DCR rule, a data collection rule, where you can group the tables for what you want and then split it out to where you want it to go. And it doesn't do anything that would affect, like I said, the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability of the data coming in. It's actually super fast. Has one drawback. If you POC it, you can't see the power of it if you do not have the data. Like if you throw a terabyte at it, it's gonna go, oh, that's all you got? Send me more, Now you create dummy data to get it done.
Yeah, what's the quintessential customer scenario where this would be, really showcase the engine, the power, and impact?
I would think an MSSP model, or companies that look like MSSPs, that you are a huge company with different business groups, and you're ingesting data on their behalf, and then you're splitting it out into individually owned resource groups that those particular business groups use. Like the application group may want their own for analytics. The security group want their own for analytics. Huge companies that have multiple geolocations or branches that have multiple firewalls that are trying to get things ingested, right? So this is not for small to mid-sized businesses. This is for enterprise, right? When you're literally talking 10 terabytes, at the minimum coming in on a daily basis, with burstable periods probably during the workday, or wherever that geographical headquarter location may be. But if you're chasing the sun, meaning that you are 24/7 shop,
Yeah.
there is no downtime, right? Unless it's holidays or such. So that's the use case for it, which is why it came up. Enterprise customers were the ones who came out and said they wanted this. So I'll put this on. We'll get it on the show notes and site, but check it out. The link will be in there to read up on it. It's actually pretty cool. There's one more slide that sort of breaks down.
Health and life sciences, no?
Well, yes, especially if you look at health and life sciences around pharmaceutical companies that generate so much data. You know,
Research, clinical trials,
research stuff where they're pumping out, but you bring a good point. You would think research and development around universities that probably are doing this. So you realize that my skill is I'm looking at it just from a securities monitoring standpoint, but you're right. That's a good point, that a lot of these companies that generate a lot of this data also need this ability to bring in. Think maybe retail stores, franchisees, places that are big five like, that have multiple business units across the world, and big companies, like G, Boeing, something like that, right? And be able to look at it that way. So I'll stop sharing on that. Just want to get that out. I got to see it in action. It's actually pretty good. I was not a Kubernetes type of person, but now I have a better understanding of Kubernetes. I went back and read it. But hey, let's get our guest on the show. Let me bring that person in. They probably back there eating up all our snacks, drinking up all our good wine inside of it. Hey!
Hi, everybody. Wonderful. Thank you.
So let me see if I can say your name. It's Arielle Cireseanu.
Close. Arielle Cireseanu-Acevedo.
Arielle Cireseanu-Acevedo.
Close enough.
Close enough. I'm butchering her name.
It's a complicated one, so it's fine.
Arielle. Everybody say it. Be quiet. I was like, all right. So, welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're a guest and friend of Ray. Ray, you want to introduce your friend?
Yes. Arielle is the most glamorous cyber practitioner.
Oh my gosh.
She, we worked with one another at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. It is very near and dear to my heart, very meaningful even today. And Arielle just blew me away. I was like, who are you? And what, like, you are wise beyond your years.
You're making me blush, and I always tell you this, but for everyone here, if you ever are feeling like you're having a down and bummy day, just call Ray, because she'll lift your spirits up and make you feel like you're the king or queen or whatever of the world. So thank you for that.
Ray will. I mean, I lost a race and came in last place, and Ray's like, you didn't lose, Ed. You will win if they're going the other way.
I am truthful. I am truthful, but you blew me away, and you were very skeptical. At first, you were like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "But here I am, like, blown away."
It's so funny because I remember you. I remember exactly when we met, like where we were in the cubicles and who you were with, and it was just so funny because I got in there, and then your energy was like amazing, but so powerful, and I was like, "Wait, I just got here. Like, who is this person?" But it worked out.
Yeah, and I didn't know, like, that was my first foray. Any technologist worth their salt has a deep reverence for info security and cyber, but I didn't realize lawyers. Oh, there's a lawyer on the team. Tell me more.
Well, yeah, and I'm not even the only one. I brought my wonderful, wonderful friend. I'll shout her out, Walsey. Not sure if she's listening on here, but she is amazing. So now we've got two of us. Wow. But that was a lovely introduction. Thank you so much.
I never heard of you as glamorous. So I know that you're glamorous.
That's really lovely. Thank you. She knows the key to my heart.
Tell us something about you and your story, and how did a attorney, is attorney appropriate?
Yeah. Yep.
Become a cyber security guru expert?
Okay, by no means do I consider myself a guru or an expert. I actually look to a bunch of my teammates for that. I won't give myself that credit yet, but it's an interesting journey. Oh, look at my people from MSK. Love it. Thank you guys for joining. So it's very interesting. Let's go to like day one. I've always wanted to be an attorney. I knew it from like, people like, oh, I want to be an astronaut and I wanted to be an attorney. I know it's very boring, but I grew up in sort of that environment. My mom manages a personal injury firm, and I like since before I was born. And so I was kind of always around that. And it was so funny. Like I remember in one of the partners' offices, he had like a little wooden gavel, and I'd sit on his side of the desk and he'd sit on the other side, and I'd like pretend I was a judge, but not really understanding what it meant, but I kind of always held on to that. And so I went throughout, my school career and just academics and my life, knowing that that's what I wanted to do. But what I wanted to do within the legal fields, which like many other fields, there are a lot of niches, there are a lot of areas that you can practice. That changed a lot. And so at one point I was like, yes, I like to talk a lot. I like to have the last word. Let me be a litigator. And then I was like, no way, definitely not litigation. Too much adversarialism for me. Let's not go there. And then I was like, oh, corporate, that sounds glamorous, right? To use the word. But I was like, no, that's not for me. And, you go through schooling, you kind of take different classes, you talk to people, you see what other people are doing. And so I graduated. I didn't actually have to pick what I wanted. And here's why. So I started working at MSK. Oh my God, I think it's been like 12 years now, which is aging me. But I started, I want to say it was like
Arielle?
at MSK. Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
you froze for a minute.
It's for
I'm like,
Am I good now?
You are
Yeah,
good.
you're
You're
good.
amazing.
Okay, cool. So I started, law school. I was set to start in August, started an MSK 2 months before. And it was like completely random that I got into MSK. I knew that I wanted to work, during law school. And so I was like searching, I was doing my own searching. I was doing, I think I worked with an agency, actually, a staffing agency, and they called me for this job, which was not in the legal field at all. It was doing like admin work for the breast and imaging center. So you think, people scheduling surgeries, scheduling appointments, liaising with nurses and doctors and patients and that kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? It's a great organization. I'll get in. I know they were very friendly to people who were in school. So I said, at least I'll have some flexibility, understanding. And my thing is, anything is a learning experience, right? So even though this isn't legal related, legal adjacent, at least, you get people skills, all kinds of things. So I was like, let's go with it. And so I think I was there maybe like 6 months, 9 months when I started thinking, okay, I want to start planning longer term. What am I going to do? And so I reached out to HR and I spoke with a wonderful person who is no longer at MSK. But I basically reached out, I think it was in an email, and I said, hey, I'm in this role at MSK. I'm currently in law school, and I want to know, I know obviously an organization of this size has a department, an OGC, general counsel office. There are, I'm sure, things that are done in-house, not just out with outside counsel. So I'd like to learn a little bit more about that and see what my career trajectory could look like moving forward. And so she was wonderful, met with her, and she actually put me in touch with my second boss at MSK, who is amazing. And still to this day, I consider him like a father, a friend, a mentor, everything. And she was like, listen, he's our general counsel in the HR legal and regulatory department. So maybe you can meet up with him, reach out. I reached out to him, went over to that office thinking I would speak for like, quick half an hour because these people are busy, I must have been there for like 2 hours. He was wonderful. Yeah, he was wonderful. He introduced me to people. He was just like a wealth of information, so generous, so kind, and I adore him. Fast forward, kept doing my thing. And then a few months later, I was on the internal job portal. and this job comes up. And I was like, okay, this is really interesting. It was like doing, I guess you could call it like, not really admin work. It was sort of beyond that. Maybe like the closest thing I could say is sort of between HR and paralegal type work, but really interesting stuff. And so I was like, you know what, let me reach out to the initial HR person with whom I spoke, and let me see if maybe she can tell me a little bit more about it, if it's something I'd be good for. So I reached out to her, and she said, listen, go apply online. The person who would be managing that role is actually the gentleman with whom you spoke a few months ago. Mm-hmm. So reach out directly to him, send him an email. And I was like, amazing. So long story short, did my thing, and within a few weeks, I got the job. That was an amazing experience. I was there for quite a few years. Invaluable lessons learned about a lot of things, like how the organization works on a deeper level. HR, you see all the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So that was really great. And I did a lot of wonderful legal writing. I got to sit in on grievances, and it was just really, really wonderful. Fast forward, he left the organization. A new boss came in, not new to the organization, but new to that role. She was also lovely, still there. And I was just about to, I was just about to graduate law school and then take the dreaded bar. Okay. So I did that. Yeah, it was quite the experience, but we did it. We made it through. We passed. So we're good. So I did that, found out that I had passed. And then around that time, I was having conversations, both like internally talking to myself and with people like her and my husband at the time, my boyfriend, who's also an attorney. And, just sort of thinking, what am I going to do next? And I got another opportunity that came by my door. One of the recruiters that sat right outside where I was sitting, she said, hey, we've got this role. It's in environmental health and safety. And they would like a lawyer, someone that can do regulatory type work. So went and did that. It was very interesting work, very tough work. I did a lot of even litigation type stuff, not really in a courtroom, but administrative law. But that was very interesting work. It was, think hazardous material safety, think fire safety, NYPD and NYFD codes for building safety, that sort of thing. Department of Buildings, Department of Water, DEP, that kind of thing. So that was very interesting work. And I was there for, I want to say, a little over a year. But as I was doing that, and I met a ton of wonderful people in that role too. So that's sort of, I'm rambling, but that is a good lesson for people. Make connections wherever you go, even if it's not somewhere you want to stay long term, because connections and anything that you can learn, even though it doesn't seem like it's going to apply later on, it absolutely will. You can never learn too much. But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do long term. And coincidentally, I saw another friend at the staff picnic, and I was chatting with him. Ray knows. I won't mention, I'm not mentioning any names just to respect people's privacy, but Ray knows these people. So I met with this friend at the staff picnic during the summer, and he was asking me hey, what's going on? We hadn't seen each other. He worked in the same building where HR was, and he works now in Digits still. Digits is our IT division. And I was chatting with him, and he said, what's going on? And I was basically telling him, look, I'm in this role. The work is very interesting, but I know that it's not what I want to be doing long term. And he said, listen, we've got, I'm very good friends with our CISO, and I know they're looking for someone to sort of fill a new role that they want to create. And they're looking for someone specifically with a legal background to sort of act as a liaison between the InfoSec department and both the rest of the organization and specifically people in the legal roles, primarily OGC and compliance. And I was like, that sounds amazing, really cool. So he's like, okay, this is the person's name, email them, get it started. And I said, yeah, no problem. Went about my day, said bye to him later. And then a few weeks and months went by and I hadn't reached out. I don't know exactly why. Maybe I thought, I don't think I would be good for that role. I don't have any tech background.
So you were told to reach out by one of the higher echelons, the system.
I know.
But previously, historically, based on what your journey you shared with us so far,
I went for
nobody
it.
was telling you to reach out to so and so you were taking it upon yourself, and you felt confident to go in those domains, but cyber was a little daunting.
You know what? I truly, looking back, I can only think like, yeah, I really don't know. There's no excuse for it. But I will say this, and I tell this to people, even some people, friends of mine who are listening now, what is meant for you is meant for you. And the universe's timing is really what it's meant to be. And I learned that lesson over and over and over. So whatever it was that stopped me, it stopped me for a reason then, but it didn't stop me the second time. And so I'm not questioning it.
I agree with you. I say that more often than not.
Yep.
It says it's a cliche that timing is everything. Time is the only thing.
Absolutely, 100%. And sometimes you don't see it, especially when it's something you want. Like this was a fluke. Okay, I didn't do it. But sometimes there are things that like we want desperately, and we want them with impatience. And you really just have to like let it flow. And this is coming from me. Those people that know me truly, my husband will laugh. He's not here. He's out with our toddler, but he would laugh because I am the most impatient, the most anxious worrywart. And I'm like, I needed it yesterday with everything. But I really do believe that it's true. And it's something I have to coach myself about. So yes, for whatever reason, the universe didn't make it happen then.
I mean, threat actors have been very successful laying in the cut and just went out until right. So
it's called dwell time.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was my inner cyber yet to have emerged being saying just hold it out. But whatever, it worked out. So ended up running into that same friend. I think it was a few months later. And we were in, the building where I worked. And I saw him and I was like, man, I really need to start looking and I need to start finding something. Because again, he was asking me how it's going. And I was like, this is good stuff, but I know this is not what I want to do. And he was like, did you ever reach out to the CISO? And I was like, no. And he said, Arielle, please go reach out. Like, I need you to do this. And he really just nailed it into my head. Like, you need to go do this. So I said, okay. And I went, and I think literally as soon as I left him, I probably went back to my desk and emailed our CISO. And it was a very, very prompt response, which Ray knows our CISO. He is absolutely wonderful. He is an incredibly good, decent, wonderful human being.
Exceptional.
How busy he is. And he's a genius. I mean, like legitimate genius. I have many examples, but he is truly a genius amongst us. But yeah, he reached out, or he responded very, very promptly. And then soon we set up like a phone conversation. And he was wonderful from the beginning, like really made me feel so at ease. And, I asked him like, hey, I heard you're hiring for this new role. What are you looking for? And I was honest. I said, I can learn things. I'm a fast learner. I won't do you wrong in that department for sure. And I'll give it my all, but I have zero experience. I mean, in terms of education, I don't have a cybersecurity degree. I don't have a computer engineering degree. Like, I'm good with technology. I'm good with computers, whatever, but I'm not a technical person in that sense. And he's like, no, it's fine. That's not what we need. And whatever you need to learn, you will learn it on the job. So I interviewed with him and then my soon-to-be boss, who is also amazing. And, a few weeks later, we got the process going. They finally got the role accepted, the role created, HR, bureaucracy type stuff, got it done. And then I want to say it was about a month and a half. And then I was there. Oh, my people are saying they're great at, oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you,
Well, you
team.
were pivotal in like kind of rebranding InfoSec, right? Because it typically, right, InfoSec, for whatever reason, is often seen as like the sheriff. You know, they're coming in and they're the
Let me just tell
Department of
you,
No, right?
I have had the luck of basically every single role other than my first in this organization being in a police role. And I'm truly, I went from environmental health and safety, like, no, you have to have that door open, you have to have that locked, you have to have this alarm working. I went from, HR first. So no, you can't be doing this. No, you have to do it this way and document this way. And then from that to environmental health and safety and this, and I've just had the luck. I can't say it's been fully transformed. It's just,
it's a journey. It really is.
Journey. It's an
ongoing balancing, the business needs with like how robust can we make our security program, and so you want to be able to enable the business. And the reality is that when you're doing that on behalf of a healthcare organization, it is not just livelihoods but actual lives, right? So it's going to
100%
the highest it can be. So
the stakes are the highest for sure. And it's funny, our motto is protect and enable. And it really is like you're going down a very fine line, a very narrow tightrope of trying to make everybody happy while also protecting them, because sometimes people don't realize that, and you can't blame them. I didn't know before I got into this industry or this field, like sometimes what people want and what people need in terms of protection, they're two different things.
Yeah.
And when you try to explain that, sometimes people do get it and sometimes they don't. But that's the cross we have to bear. That's our responsibility to be able to socialize that message appropriately and to be able to try to make everyone as happy as we can while still reaching the ultimate goal, which is to protect the organization and the people within it, the patients that we treat, their family members, etc. So.
Yeah, it's one of the most vulnerable communities, right? It's a specialized institution, right? With satellite sites, and you don't go there for a paper cut. It's a cancer center. So this is intense work. So
for sure. That's the interesting journey that led me to being in cybersecurity. And I will say, what I do is not nearly as highly technical as like my friend Jean here or other people. I'm not cloud security. I'm not incident response. I work on the governance and program management side of things. So we have wonderful colleagues in my group that do education and awareness. We have people that do program management, myself and my good friend Walsey, who's the other lawyer on the team. She works with me and we do a lot of different things, but primarily like organizational program alignment. We do policy work, drafting policies, reviewing policies, regulatory alignment, right? So making sure that we're keeping abreast of what we need to from the regulatory space and saying, okay, how does that translate? How do these laws and regulations coming out, or even just best practices, how does that translate, and how can we make sure that our program and the things that we're doing in our group are aligning with that? And we can say both, A, we've checked the boxes we need to check, but B, we've gone beyond that to make sure that we're not only checking boxes, right? We're being proactive. Go ahead, Edward. Wait, you're muted, Edward. Good thing I called him.
Yeah. I can't see the light flash, on my thing, so I had to look at here. So 2 questions. Mm-hmm. Actually 3. First, shout out to MSK. What is MSK?
Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center.
Okay.
So it is, we have, like Ray said, we have a bunch of different satellites, but primarily we're located in Manhattan, New York City.
Okay. And so your work is internal to MSK.
Correct.
Or being able to write that. So, or being able to do that. So you're essentially part of the team that maybe works alongside internal audit, compliance, and all of those guys.
Not only, we work with like everyone. And I mean, we have Digits, which I mentioned is our IT division. we work with people even outside of that. I mean, we work with like physical security. We work with even the research folks. I mean, our hospital is not just a cancer treatment center. We have like 3 different arms, including a research exclusive side. We also have a graduate school. So there's, there are a lot of different groups. It's a huge organization, and we're doing a lot. So we liaise with not just those groups. We liaise with pretty much everyone you can think of.
Number 3, who's his biggest fan? J.M. Rivera.
Oh my God, that's one of my colleagues on the InfoSec side. And I know because he said on Facebook he was going to get it. He was going to get on there. That's Gene.
Okay.
Gene Michael Rivera, and he is fantastic. I'm sorry if I outed your full name, Gene. If you did.
I got it. See, that's what hackers do. That's that social engineering.
Yeah, the full government's out there.
I got it now.
Yeah.
So within that environment, I know that this is real close to Ray. This is one of her, we use the word passion.
Mm-hmm.
With Ray, you can't use the word passion. You have to use mission. She turns passions into mission statements. Yeah. This is my mission to what I'm going to do, right? And I understand that. When someone says that to me, my ears perk being ex-military, right? Because that word, why it's simple in the way it sounds, the way it's said, means so lot to someone in the military. Right? You don't use that lightly. And so when Ray says it, I correlate that like this is her thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense. It's like passion can just be an idea, but the mission is like, what are you doing, right? What is the thing that you're actually getting done, the action behind it? That's really important.
So, I made it a point when people would always overuse the term, what is your passion? I'm like, are you asking me what is my mission? Then no, ask your passion. I said, well, I'm passionate about a lot of things, running and this, and barbecuing, and what my ears, but ask me what my mission is.
Yeah.
What's your mission? Then a mission means I've thought through it, I've given time to it. I have an ownership to it, whatever that may be. But I can tell that information technology, the healthcare arena, and seeing others succeed are her missions.
Yeah,
mission statements. You're in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
It is a turbulent world right now, as far as healthcare providers, right?
Yep.
There used to be. I've been in this game long enough. There was an unspoken rule. You didn't touch education. All the hackers do this. All of them.
Yeah.
No matter what group you're in, you don't touch education. You don't touch healthcare. It seems like it's turned around now.
Out the window. That's the number one. I mean, money,
and necessity and criticality of the target now, right? Big industries sometimes are reluctant. You're starting to see more of them not pay the ransom. I could go on with my opinion why. I'll say one. They are doing the calculation of we'll start net zero and pass the cost to the consumer. Your industry doesn't have that luxury of a sort, right? You don't have the time to negotiate cost on return on value.
And not only that, but you also, I won't get too deep in the weeds with this, but if you think about like regulatory bodies, that's a no-no in itself. Yeah. So, and again, I won't
so many laws around
not constitute legal advice for anyone out there.
We're not providing legal advice
for legal reasons, entertainment purposes only.
Put the little disclaimer on the
Yeah, do that. So within that, I'd like to ask this question.
Yeah.
Ray's big on community, so am I. Put everything on her shows. My shows are pretty. Put a few on.
You got it.
What is your collaboration with your peers outside of MSK, with everybody in that arena? Because I always hear about other entities having this informal, thought sharing, either at the CIO level, CISO level, independent practitioners within every industry.
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk to those who are whatever facet of the healthcare, other than the conference they have in Florida every year, I forget the name of it, around security. How do you interact with like organizations so that you guys build a resiliency and a uniform resistance? Like, if something was to happen in your environment, do you also have the motion not only to respond, whatever according to your internal procedures.
Mhm.
What I haven't seen, and maybe because I don't work in HLS,
Mhm.
that one of the things I saw in the legal profession is you tell your peer law firms, this is what we're going through.
So we do have that.
Okay.
And I'll speak as the we, not me personally, but like I'll
Okay.
speak on behalf of our department and our organization. So our CISO actually, I can't remember. I'm going to butcher the acronym, so I won't say it, but there is actually an alliance. Any Office fans out there? Well, yes. Do you want to form an alliance? Absolutely. But he has a group of which he's an active member, which is, I think, CISO specifically for hospitals within the area. And I'm not sure if it's the tri-state area or if it's just like New York, but there are groups out there. He's a member of at least one that I know for sure,
Okay.
where they do exactly that. Like they share information, they share resources, they have regular meetings where they discuss certain things. And again, I only for sure know of the one in terms of like an organized group that has membership. But I also know that he has connections. He's been in the industry for a very long time. And so and then us as an organization, we definitely have, relationships and connections with other healthcare entities for these very things and for other things as well. We have our organization does it slightly differently, but we have an emergency response group and like a backup and recovery group that doesn't fall under the InfoSec umbrella. In some organizations, they go hand in hand. Frankly, even physical security might go hand in hand with InfoSec. We have it structured a little differently, but we definitely talk to people. And yeah, I mean, it's really essential. And I think that will go to maybe something we'll get to talk about later. It's all about, like you mentioned, the word community, having connections, having relationships, because really at the end, whether you're talking big issues with respect to cybersecurity, breaches, what have you, or anything else in life, no one's doing anything alone, right? Like you need that community and help to get through it, and you also need to help others get through it. So for sure, we do have that.
That's just been on my mind. The co-creator of this podcast. Big shout out to you, Frank. We've been thinking about that a lot, and maybe a business venture in it. I like the word alliance, conclave.
Yeah.
I like one word we should call ourselves the resistance.
I like that.
All these security bad guys are banding together. We'll form our own Justice League.
I like it. I might steal that word.
Yeah.
I already wrote it down. I'm not trying to buy it down. So that's why I was
Rebel
right.
Alliance, right? The CISO for MSK is, as Arielle shared, one of the most spectacular human beings. Somehow manages to be both a technical expert and like just so incredibly business savvy.
Oh my God. It's we tell him all the time, it's the funniest thing. Like he will, you think once you've gotten to that level, okay, it's all politics and the business side and like the rest you're delegating. But no, he'll literally go in and like on threat calls and
servant leadership. Like that's what I think that's the difference. And like it's this obsession like with people first, and I think that leadership kind of informs how institutions show up. Yeah. And just props to the MSK team, because
and he's got a military background also, Edward. So it again goes back to that, right? Like service, having a mission, doing for others. That he is like the embodiment of that. So very, very lucky that I get to work with him and for him.
So you're in this role. How long have you been in role? I didn't ask that question.
Oh my God. Time is an illusion.
It is.
It's not real.
I think it's like 5 years now. It's been a while. But you're thinking pandemic. I have a not yet 2-year-old. She'll be 2 in November. So
do it all.
Is really like, I don't know what day it is, month it is, year it is. Don't rely on me.
How have you gotten certifications and you're successfully managing your career? and like your personal life. What is your secret?
I have no secret. You just get it done. I feel like, I'm very, very lucky. I have wonderful, wonderful colleagues at work. That's one of the things I love most. And I know I hate this. Like every time you go on LinkedIn, they say, if a place tells you, oh, we're like family, you better run fast in the opposite direction. So I won't say that, but I really want to because I truly have friends that I consider like my best friends, and not just best work friends, or no, these are some of my best friends. Like we see each other outside of work. And I know, a lot of us have kids, a lot of us have family obligations, other things we're interested in. And so if you talk about like empathy, understanding, flexibility, that's like, I have the best team. And I think that's a huge driver in my ability to sort of juggle it all. And, shout out to, again, my husband. I'm very lucky. I have a wonderful partner who is really like there with me doing it all. And yeah, I mean, I think it's like with everything, they say, what is really adulting? It's just figuring it out as you go, right? And I believe that. But I think that makes it easier because we're all sort of going through the same thing.
How do you stay sharp? I mean, I sort of somewhere in my cybersecurity career, I had a brief stint in compliance.
Mm-hmm.
I found it quite overwhelming, especially dealing with, frameworks that dealt with regulatory compliance.
Yeah, it's funny you say frameworks. We're actually trying to do a self-assessment for a framework now. So, yeah, it's tough. I would say, like, ingest as much as you can, and you're taking away. I had like top 5 tips, Edward. You're making me go out of order now for people who are trying to break into cyber. But I think, one of them is just that, like, being a self-starter, right? So whatever, it doesn't need to mean something overwhelming. It could mean like, having an RSS feed to some really cool cyber websites that like give you news, right? Or reading up on news articles or books, Coursera, SANS, those types of things. I think just taking advantage of those resources and being proactive about it, right? And for me, it's not always easy because my time is so limited. And
you have the courage to fail. Like you're like, I'm not going to be an expert when, line 1, and that's okay. I'm just going to keep doing it until I can incorporate it into my muscle memory, and then I can become that expert.
I had that feeling today. I've been doing this for a while, and I got an email today that said, you need to be on a call at 2:00 and hear the questions the customer has.
And you were like, what?
Big customer. And I looked at it, and I had a momentary moment of panic because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, let me get on a call, because I realized the artificial sense of urgency is because I didn't understand the context of the request because it came in email. Once I got on the call, customer was super pleasant, and we talked through it. And the way his email was structured was not what he really wanted.
Right.
He wanted to have a conversation and have a brainstorming, and he was trying to make it sound smart and technical for the people he thought was going to be on the call. And I said, well, just have a conversation. Tell me what you want. Yep. Well, I'm trying to do this, so on. So I said, okay, yeah, blah, 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 blah. But I get it. I find myself having to figure out where there's work in and where there's mission enablement begins and so on. So, but I know I'm in a good spot when I could be sitting downstairs outside, doing something that looks like work. And my wife says, "Is that work?" No, I'm reading up on something that got my interest. She accepts that now because she realized I learn more when I'm not on the job.
Oh, absolutely.
When I'm not on the job,
there's not the time pressure.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that. I think the theme for my life and probably the lives of so many people that I know, brilliant people, is just consistently like imposter syndrome, right? You never feel like, I mean, I started the call telling you guys I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, and I'm not. I really don't consider myself when I have people that are like such experts near me, but that's okay. Understanding that even experts have gaps in knowledge. Like you cannot know it all. And I think a lot of the times it's like self-induced anxiety, wanting to be perfect, feeling like we have to just show up at 100% all the time. But the truth is, and again, back to what I said, it's like, what is adulting? You just learn as you go along, right? You figure it out. And again, big on community. You lean on other people. I've learned same anxiety I've had going into calls where I feel like, okay, I'm either brought in here where I don't know anything, or I know what I need to know, but I don't know it enough. And you kind of go on thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make a fool of myself, or I'm going to really disappoint some people. But if you just take a breath, show some confidence and be like, hey, if I don't know something now, it's okay. I'll get as much information as I can, and I'll get the answers, and I'll get back to you, and we'll make it work. I think that's really it, just not being afraid to fail.
To our listeners, sorry, take this to heart. I think a lot of times when you get to be very senior, I've been doing this for 30 years, not necessarily cybersecurity, but in the industry, we tend to always want to come in. I love the abstracts that Ray writes when she prepares for conferences like B-Side, DEF CON. Ray, can I talk about the one you're writing now about Waffle
Sure.
House?
Yeah.
She came up with the title, Everything I Learned About Incident Response, something around Waffle House. I learned everything about
It was with Professor Zambati. Yes, yeah.
About what? And I sort of learned the same thing, by working with my wife to understand, hey, you are coming in she said, when I'm talking to you, I'm not asking you to fix anything. I need someone to come in and give me a mind share about, am I thinking along the right path, or what I'm talking about totally off? And I took what she said. I heard it in my head when I got on the call. So, sir, tell me what you're trying to do here. What we're trying to do. I wasn't trying to fix anything.
Yep.
And super warming customer. And hit it off, and I wrote it up and everything. So I know we have some very senior and experienced people on the call, but sometimes we do need to be reminded. We do not always have to have the answer.
No. And I want to stop you there, Edward, if I can, because I've noticed with a lot of meetings and stuff. I mean, of course, there are times when agendas are necessary, etc. But let me tell you, I love a brainstorming session. As long as I know that people are actually like the people that are involved and that we're going to actually get something done, even 15, 20-minute brainstorming session of just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I've gotten, and we in my group have gotten such good work, some of our best work done in that way. And you don't need to have like going prepared. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about and this is how it's going to be done. No, sometimes a stream of consciousness brainstorm session can yield the best results. So definitely don't be afraid of that. It doesn't all have to be, packaged to perfection.
I have anxiety about my writing. I can get on stage, I can do this. My writing is the writing of a 3-year-old. And so,
I highly doubt
if I send something to Ray, I have to put it through spell check and Copilot because, she's brutal. The whole page is red. Like there's no art.
Send something over to me because I am like grammar that I can say. That's one of the things that I'm like, that's my forte. I'm like me and my other colleague, we're like the proofreaders of everything. So if you need it, I can send my way.
Don't threaten me to send you a document. They won't stop coming.
I've got you.
It's a good time all around.
Good time. And within the cyber, and it also goes to our listeners who are going to download this to understand, what do you take away from this call? Cyber isn't something that you can define into, definite pillars. It takes everything. Because, they've been doing audits for a long time. I worked at companies and everybody, the auditors are here. in a sense, they were looking at how you were handling information and what was the integrity of that information, especially around law. Like, how can you tell me this report hasn't been tampered with? And this day and time, you have to assume that the information doesn't have a complete 100% fidelity because you don't understand the trust custodian, chain of it, which is one of the things I was really bully about digital ledger blockchain. And then all of a sudden cryptocurrency came in and took all the air out of the room. But I'm like, oh my God, this is going to really put in something for someone to submit financial reports all the way to the end. They want to manipulate it, all these things. And I think it's going to go back to it. I think the cryptocurrencies probably run its speculative, path all the way through. But that's the thing. So I love looking at cyber from a perspective that it's not always the person with the hood over their head typing.
Right.
It goes back to someone has to write these frameworks, these rules, the enforcements to understand. And you said something at the very beginning of the show.
Mm-hmm.
As we go out and we look at how regulatory, things such as, GLB, SOX, PCI, HIPAA change, how do we write controls that keep our businesses compliant but does not disrupt the line of business, right? Because
it's an ever moving goalpost, right? Because number one, even if things were to remain as they are and no new threats or technologies or what have you were to come out, there is no such thing as 100% protection. There will always be risk. And so there is no, I guess in cyber, there is no destination. It is only the journey, right? And so that's the case, even if things were to remain status quo, which we know they won't, they will always change. And it is that constant evolution of, us, like who's going to get ahead of the others, right? Something comes out, you have to respond, but then the next thing comes out. And so I think that's, if you do want to make it in this industry, there has to be that understanding that there is no such thing as perfection. And there is no, okay, I set out to write, I don't know, this book of this many pages. And once I've done, I can literally close the book and I'm completed and on to the next task. That doesn't exist in this. So it turns our notions, right, upside down of what it means to work and like deliver a product or a result, but it can be a good thing too.
Yeah. And I think
only the journey should be the title of your next conference talk.
Oh my God. Well, I have yet to give a conference talk.
We should have a start. That's my.
Rick got you. She'll pull you on stage, kicking and screaming.
Oh gosh, coming to a town near you.
I'll give Ray some credit here. I love to take people's ideas and stuff and then turn them into punchlines or statements. I
love that.
And so one of the things I told the customer that had a breach,
mm-hmm.
they felt as though the journey was over. It happened to us, so it was a little bit of resignation.
Mm-hmm.
That they were going in doing, the recovery remediation, and they weren't doing some things I told them to do. And I took a medical page. I said, "Sir,
mm-hmm.
you can't assume that this breach is over. Think of this as a medical term because you have had the condition doesn't make you immune to reinfection,
right? Or to other conditions, right?
Other conditions. I said, more likely." If someone's in your system, it makes you more susceptible to that reinfection again because they're leaving back doors and doing these things. You're not inoculated of a sort. I forget exactly what I said. It was pretty clear at the time and you got the guy's attention.
It down.
Yeah. And so that's why I like talking to different individuals on their approach to be able to get people to listen. Because I've been on some calls and I told I could not break through to the customer. And luckily, I've had someone in the back end. I can read body language. I said, man, I'm totally bombing this. I know he wants to, but I'm not saying the right thing. And someone will come on and say it, and the customer gets it. It's like they gave them the cipher, and then their reception of what I was talking through. Maybe someone else bumped for me in the call. Say, okay, this is what he's trying to relate to him. But I love hearing not IT related interests into our industry come in and give their perspective.
Yep.
Same way that your professor did. He's a finance guy. He just happens to be very talented in IT. And so I see it from that standpoint for someone who can come back. And it's very hard to talk to me. I'm gonna make sure I'm charitable. When I'm working in the medical industry, it's sort of hard to get that leadership to sort of understand where it is, because it's hard to measure ROI on investment in cyber and medical, right?
It's hard, and I think another thing that our CISO often has talked about is kind of a lot about what you said, Edward, the mission, right? So like, why it's not enough to just, okay, this is what we're doing. Why are we doing it? This is his thing. It's what is our why?
Yeah.
And we've talked about that in meetings a lot. And it's harder when you're working in healthcare, but you're not a nurse, a physician, a PA, when you're not, liaising with patients and transporting them, or like when you're not in that like very obvious medical role or medical adjacent, it's really hard to know the why when you're the ones like working remotely, working behind a computer, thinking about policies and tech. It seems very far removed. And naturally, if it feels that way for us, the inverse is also true to an extent.
Absolutely. We seem like the boogeyman. We're the boogeyman. When the security people are now, we're the boogeyman.
Yeah, and I've heard this. This is not, by the way, like no judgment here. I get it, but you have doctors like, why do I have to do this? I need to treat patients. Yeah. Like don't tell me about this video that I need to watch to recertify every year or whatever. I don't have time for this, or like simulated phishing attacks. They're like, I'm literally saving people's lives. And we, as frustrating as it can be for us in the InfoSec world, we really do, and our CISO sort of inculcates this, right? Like, you need to take a step back and realize that they're not wrong. So we are the ones whose responsibility is to fit within what they're doing, because this isn't like, we're not the stars of the show. We're the backstage people, and that's okay. Both roles are incredibly important, but at the end of the day, this is a hospital. It's not an IT shop, and so we really do need to think about that. And I guess do our best to try to make it work.
Yeah. So I know that we're extremely over time for this. I would like to say thank you so much. This has been one of the better theme months we've had, because we've made what we do demystified. Because when you're an IT person that's been in it for 15 years, that's all you know. You talk it and you assume. Yeah. I've killed many family gatherings. I think Ross said it on the show, because I go down a rabbit hole and I'm like, what's this dude talking about, right? But when you can sit here and talk to those who have to work in it, who are attached to it, I get it. Because I would love to meet your CISO. That is one of the more challenging jobs. I think that role really wasn't created until like 1999, maybe. When the first instance of that title came out, something like that. And it's hard to relate. When you're talking about just security awareness and doing this training, I can relate to a doctor. I think it's, I'm saving lives. I get it. You're not saving lives, but we need you to be able to do these things, because it's so, but we got to make it not onerous. And one of the best examples I've seen it is that they did that training in person. You could come in, they had a room, it was going on every hour. And the easy way to get someone in a room, free food.
Yeah.
Yep.
You realize they have something
to eat with empathy. And it's not a God complex. It really is like, it's seen as an impediment. Like all of the stuff that has to get done is seen as a blocker to saving lives, right? Yeah. So I know I won't say the full government, but CISO leads with empathy, and you make sure that his team is stacked with people from technical to the more business lens, like they are leading with empathy, they show up with empathy, and that leadership is crucial.
And you gamify it. I mean, you get them in a room. There's plenty of Chick-fil-A in the room for them to eat. They able to do it. And you gamify it, because this company, I can't mention their name, they said those that complete this within this time, which was about 30, somewhere between 30 and 15 days before the due date.
Mhm.
If you get it done here, you're eligible to win this huge Yeti cooler.
Right.
They had 87% compliance of getting it done for either 30 or 40, 15 days earlier.
And we
Sustainable swag.
Yeah,
And
like,
we have an amazing education and awareness team. We renamed it. It's E&E, Education and Engagement, which I think is more appropriate, right? Because you want to engage people, like not just let them know, not just make them aware, but actually have them engage with you. And, it's not always easy, but we have a wonderful, wonderful team that tries to do exactly that. I mean, whatever it takes, right? Like meeting people, doing working sessions, doing road shows, having cool swag, doing like online virtual scavenger hunts, having all sorts of things. We have really cool speakers for like Cyber Awareness Month and that kind of thing. It's important to do that, to engage people, and also meet people where they are.
Meet them where they are, and make it so like, hey man, I'm not, posing upon you.
Yeah.
We want to just get this done to make you better aware.
Exactly. And also help you, right? Because like we want everything to run smoothly, and we don't want to have to worry about data being leaked or our systems being hacked or things, because that will then affect the doctors and the nurses and the other staff's ability to treat their patients. So we're working together. We'll try to do it in a way that causes you the least disruption possible, but we need to do it so, because now everything's cool and it seems like a burden, but then something happens, then it's our fault, right? So we're trying to avoid that.
I think the message has gotten easier. I think that sometimes people are reluctant to do it because it seems like it's benefiting at someone else's expense.
Yeah.
But there have been enough noticeable and notable breaches of healthcare entities. It's just dead ass serious, people. This is no joke. So while you're out, asking, what we're doing, we are protecting lives just like you are, because we're protecting that critical system. We're protecting your ability to do your job, and we're protecting your job, right? Because being unable to, and this is just a business, being able to not able to generate or recognize revenue is a real thing and will affect people.
Right.
There are very few places that can say, "Oh, don't worry about it. We're going to get it back up. We don't have to worry about it." Their bills to be paid. There's still that hack from the medical payment exchange that's still going on. That's not been resolved yet, right?
And if you think about it, in an industry like healthcare, that's like the best outcome, right? Because then you have, money is one thing, but then you have like people's information out there, or worse yet, like, what if you have diagnoses mixed up? What if you lose medical records? We've had, you've seen like machinery being tampered with in other countries, and like people actually dying while they're on the surgical table. And so, the money part of it is like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. In terms of
you talking about liability stuff, and now you're
Next year,
fighting lawyers.
you should do. They had biohacking medical village there. We're gonna have.
I may come to that one and see how that is.
You should participate. I think MSK should show up in person.
Well, I'll let my people know.
They can come on and we'll talk about it. They should sponsor us a show. We'll talk about it and have all of them come up. But Arielle, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for
having me.
This
was an excellent closeout to our theme month. And I think that our novices, our newbies, our middle, our seasoned listeners all have gotten something out of our series of guests for this month. And I think the biggest thing is to realize you're not alone. Right. And your ally may not be the person that looks like. They're doing cyber, but I think your cyber job is the only job.
And you can start from anywhere. You can start from anywhere. You could be an office admin, become a lawyer, esquire, and cyber professional. Doesn't matter.
I can do it. You can do it.
That's
Maybe not as glamorously though, but
You are too sweet. I'm gonna like record this and write it down somewhere and just look at it constantly.
Yeah.
You boosted my ego quite a bit.
Well, thank you so much again, Ray. Thanks for bringing on such an excellent guest. Thanks to MKS for allowing her to come on.
MSK.
What I say?
MKS. It sounded like MK Ultra. We're not affiliated with it, but MSK.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. I'm just so stuff all the time. I'm surprised I got her name right. That's the running thing of the show. I never get people's name right.
That's how engaging you are, Arielle. Now he's like, I remembered her name. This is good. Like
you never get rid of right.
I hope everyone has a little something to take away from this, even if it's just my name. Not that that's important, but
about the journey.
And for those who are in IT, who have friends and family who are considering career change, take this series of podcasts over the last month and let them listen to it. This will help alleviate some of the anxiety they have. And be an advocate to say, you're not too young, you're not too old, you're just right. Yep. And just right when you decide to make the plunge, just like Arielle decided, let me reach out to this person, right? I'm ready now, right? And now I'll go, because the universe said it. It could be the universe, it could be a frog talking to you. I don't know what it is, the way the wind.
Whatever it is.
Go do it. Well, everyone, thanks for listening as we close out the month of August for our podcast. Do we have any more? No, that's the last one. I had to make sure I'm looking at the board. I'm like, next podcast. I have to look at my board.
I'm glad to have been here, guys. You've been wonderful, and I'm honored to be the closing ceremony.
Oh, yeah. Just like we end the games here. And so we'll see everybody next Monday. Are we off?
I think it's like
a consult. We have to consult the schedule. Rod makes us work round the clock.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's some work violations being occurred. We have to sit here and work. But thanks, everyone. Thanks for being friends of the show. We're having a great time. We're just blazing through 2024. Have fun. Look both ways before you cross the street. Don't run with scissors in your hands, and don't take wooden nickels.
Stay safe. Have fun. And be glamorous. Bye.